And for more, welcome in A's broadcaster, my friend Dallas Braden, one of only 24 pitchers in MLB history to throw a perfect game. Dallas, here we are again, my friend. It's the Dodgers swooping in and getting another big-name free agent. They already took away Edwin Diaz from the Mets. Now they take Kyle Tucker away from the Mets as he signs a massive deal. Your reaction is what?
Has there ever been a product that sells itself any better than Hollywood? And mainly the Dodgers at this point, because I'm not quite sure how much courting was necessary outside of, you want to come to Hollywood? You want to come hit in this lineup? You want to come hit behind this staff? The answer to those questions clearly were a resounding yes. Hakeem, we'll start here. It was years ago on our podcast when I was essentially laughed at for talking about us as an industry being on the precipice, being right on the brink of a $50 million a year type player. And who that player was, what that looked like, I said remained to be seen. There were rumors about that. Could that be Mike Trout? I mean, there were guys like DeGrom that signed big extensions for $30+ million a year. Mike Trout, who signed extensions for $30+ million a year. Miguel Cabrera back in 2014. I mean, there were names, right, that were popping up. Garrett Cole, $36 million in 2019. So you knew that we were creeping to this point. But now here we are, Kyle Tucker, and rumor has it that there was a lengthy deal on the table from the folks up north in Toronto. A lengthy deal, somewhere around the neighborhood of possibly 10 years. If that's the case, could you imagine being able to come even close to what that AAV may have been in a 10-year stretch with just a 4-year offer? And that's exactly what the Los Angeles Dodgers just did. At $60 million a year, 240 total, there is an opt-out after year 2. Kyle Tucker is now a Los Angeles Dodger. And I think the marriage between the two was really something that was just sort of discussed and volleyed about, almost as an afterthought, just sort of tickling and teasing the baseball fans' mind, because what if, right? What if? Like, could that be a possibility? Here we are. Here we are, Hakeem. Kyle Tucker is sandwiched now in the middle of best lineup in baseball. And what's funny is this is a team who has won the World Series in back-to-back years. They are defending champs 2 times, and they have gotten better. That's really tough to do. That is a difficult task to complete, regardless of where you finished at in the season prior, especially if you find yourself in the big dance at the end of it all. To think that you are going to say goodbye, as they did, to a Hall of Famer in Clayton Kershaw. There's players that have left, but they have just gotten better. And now you add, arguably, and I think undoubtedly at this point, the most coveted free agent bat on the market. I mean, it was Kyle Schwarber, it was Kyle Tucker, it was Alex Bregman. Schwarber found a home very early. I don't think anybody doubted he wasn't headed back to the city of brotherly love. Alex Bregman and the debacle that occurred between he and Boston, not he and Boston, but essentially Boston fumbling the Bregman bag. And now Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker is a Los Angeles Dodger. Wouldn't you like to hit in between Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman or Will Smith or Shohei Ohtani or Max Muncy or Teoscar Hernandez? I mean, the list goes on and on and on, Hakeem. This is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, he could have hit between Francisco Lindor and Juan Soto, but now he's going to hit between a couple of guys in L.A. And what's wild, to your point about the AAV, they're going to pay a guy $60 million AAV, and he's not even the best player on his team. Like, if you
he might not be the third best.
Right.
He might not be the third or fourth best player on that team. I mean, let's just be honest. That's not a knock on Kyle Tucker. Let's not forget that they have 3 offensive caliber MVPs in that lineup still, before you ever get to Kyle Tucker's name, right? And that's something else that we talked about was, is this, and I don't want to use the word indictment, I think maybe is this insight into the personality of Kyle Tucker? Because if you have a lengthy deal on the table, basically a decade's worth of commitment to you, and there's a competitive AAV that's being offered as well, large lump sum, does it benefit you to go that route? Maybe it does. The only resistance that you might have is if that deal gets cut in half lengthwise and there's not such a gap in the compensation that you have to scoff at. We're talking $240 million over 4 seasons.
Look, Kyle Tucker has been really consistent, right? 5 straight seasons with 20 home runs. But, like, let's be honest, Dallas, you can go get a guy that hits 20 home runs. Like, you want guys that are driving in 130 homers, right? The numbers are good. I'm not going to debate whether they're good or not. But some will say, well, you know, he got injured last season. That suppressed his numbers. Are we sure he can stay healthy? Like, those are the concerns about Kyle Tucker. So
yeah, well, we also got to think about this. When you talk about overall value, you're talking about a player who is essentially a 5-win player and has been a 5-win player since 2021. And when you plug that kind of individual into a lineup where he is not bearing the responsibility of production, where there is a list of valuable and at times the most valuable players in the league that can support him, as well as other incredible supporting cast members, I think the pressure to have to go out and perform gets alleviated, maybe to an extent where he can quietly be that 4.5, 5.5 win player. And when you look up after another 4 years, if that's what you're getting out of Kyle Tucker and maybe hopefully a little more, are the Dodgers okay with it? I think the paycheck and the years tell you that they would be more than okay if that happens.
Well, and you know that if he does get injured, they can absorb the loss for a month or two, right? Because they're so deep. If you're the Mets right now, Dallas, you lost Edwin Diaz, a couple $1 million. Dodgers pay him a little bit more. Dodgers pay Kyle Tucker a little bit more. How are you feeling right now if you're a Mets fan? And then for the Mets overall, when you got Steve Cohen out here tweeting that there's smoke, and you're thinking that, hey, you're going to get Kyle Tucker, and you think you got a deal that's going to happen soon, $50 million a year, and it doesn't happen. Where do the Mets go from here?
Well, first to address Mets fans or what that must feel like. You know, there's been a lot of conversation about what that clubhouse atmosphere is like, and whether or not that was something that Edwin Diaz parted ways with or a reason behind it. I think honestly, it was just about the money and the lack of huge gap and the opportunity to go and play with a team that has a very clear and very defined championship window. And I think that cannot be said for what the New York Mets have going on right now. So from that perspective, I think if you're a Mets fan, you do start to wonder, what direction are we heading? And if we are talking about going out and getting these players and we just continue to miss and we're having a struggle retaining our players, there must be something deeper here at play. Because to have Uncle Stevie, as I affectionately refer to him as, Steve Cohen, tweeting, as you said, Hakeem, kind of tickling it, hey, there's smoke. And who could that smoke be around? I mean, would it have to be almost a Red Soxian pivot now to bringing in Framber Valdez? Is that the only way that you can make up for having watched Edwin Diaz leave town? And now you have also allowed Pete Alonso to walk, and you have also now just watched Kyle Tucker, a guy who would undoubtedly help that club. I made the argument that though Kyle Tucker could help that club, is that club a Kyle Tucker away from being a championship caliber team, a championship contender? I don't know that that's necessarily the case. Clearly, Kyle Tucker makes anybody better. He makes the Dodgers even better than they are. He would have made a huge impact in Toronto as well. But for the Mets fans to have this carrot sort of dangled in front of them and have it ripped away in the fashion that it has been, you know, and I'm not saying that the Mets were the lead horse in this race for Kyle Tucker, but to think that you were in the conversation, that you were in that short list of suitors, and now you once again have been left kind of out in the cold, that's got to be a jagged pill to swallow.
Look, you want to compete, you got to spend money. We know that. I mean, that's how this is. There's no salary cap in Major League Baseball. We're not sure that there's going to be one day, even though that might be a sticking point with a strike looming. We'll wait to see on that, as my good friend David Sampson would say. But hey, as my good friend Dallas Braden would say, you hang it, we bang it. And that's what Kyle Tucker's probably going to do in Los Angeles multiple times next season. 4 years, $240 million. Hey, I'm going to continue to look for you on Baseball is Dead, one of the great podcasts on the market. Dallas, appreciate you taking time for us here on HQ, my friend.
Anything for you, Dream. Much appreciated as always. Enjoy the night, my man.
Dallas Braden here on CBS Sports HQ as the Dodgers get another deal done, a massive deal for Kyle Tucker, 4 years, $240 million. As you take a look at the projected payrolls in baseball in 2026, Dodgers coming in at more than $416 million, nearly $100 million more than the New York Mets. And, well, now the Mets will continue to wonder what could have been as they lose out on Kyle Tucker. And look, when a free agent signs, we will have instant reaction right here on CBS Sports HQ. Bo Bichette, Cody Bellinger, still the big names on the market, as well as starting pitcher Framber Valdez. When they sign, we will have reaction right here on HQ.